welcome back to the Empowered Intuitive Academy podcast. I am one of your hosts, Taylor Henderson, the Kind of Witch, and with me is my beautiful co-host, Petra Costa from When Magic Awakes. And
Hello.
today we are talking about toxic positivity. Can we not?
Can we not?
Can we not? And we're going to get into why we shouldn't in this episode, because I know personally for me, it's been coming up a lot within spiritual circles and stuff, and I just have a real gripe with it. I'm here for positivity. I'm here for reassurance. What I'm not here for is canceling out other people in their experiences. And so maybe I should start with what toxic positivity actually is, so that, we all have an idea of what we're talking about and how we can keep an eye out on it. So toxic positivity is when you use positive sentiments to cancel out negative emotions, suppress or avoid them, as well as reject or deny stress and stress-inducing situations, be that for yourself or other people. Am I missing anything there, Petra?
No, I'm getting the same kind of things. It's the belief that you should always be positive and happy, regardless of the actual situation or your circumstances.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we need to focus. Tay and I are two of the very positive people, but it has to be related and have some reality base to it. It can't just be a platitude that's thrown at you. Regardless of your circumstance, because there's a certain amount of, as you said, cancelling involved there, and you're just not allowing people to feel.
Yeah, we're not allowing people to feel. It's a really, to me, it feels like a really manic way of looking at the world. Like, we're not allowed to have a shred of negativity. We're not allowed to express that we're having negative feelings and emotions. And that can be quite damaging because, I'm here for optimism. I'm here for positivity. I like to think I have a generally sunny disposition despite my background and where I come from and things like that and what I've experienced in my life. My silver lining is always going to be in humor. I like to spin things into a joke, because if I can't laugh at it, then we're really fucked.
Yeah.
But, I really appreciate when I'm sharing things with people that they don't respond to me with, oh, well, such and such has got it worse than you. Or maybe you should be grateful for what you already have. Or, is it as bad as you really think it is?
Yeah. And if you just thought about it this way, you wouldn't be feeling how you're feeling right now.
Exactly. And that really leads into the phenomena we're seeing in, spiritual circles, mainly new age, but it's leaking into witchcraft communities as well, with this whole love and light movement. And, we won't get too woo-woo in this, but there's a whole premise of positivity that we are somehow generating the negative shit that happens to us in our lives because we are vibrating at a negative frequency or a lower frequency. So this is sort of known as the law of attraction, which pretty much is like attracts like, so to say. So if you're having negative thoughts, or you're thinking bad things, or you're living in those lower frequencies, then those things are going to happen to you, and that's what you're attracting to you. As opposed to if you are in a positive mindset and you're constantly looking for the silver lining and you're heightening your vibration, that then you will get all good things come to you.
Do I detect a note of sarcasm there?
Well, you might, because my bullshit radar goes off very, very frequently when I hear shit like that. Personally, I think it's very damaging and victim blaming.
This is the thing. This is the thing. I can get with the program if we're talking about positivity, and if you're positive and you have a positive outlook, and if you send that energy out, that more likely you're going to get a positive response from the people you deal with, right? Absolutely. Like if I go to the greengrocer and I go, I know I've come in here at 5 to 6, but is there any chance you've got some avocados somewhere for me? And I'm being lovely about it. He's more likely to go out the back and grab me some avocados that just happen to be there.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
if I went in there and I was all like, oh, I can't believe you're, shutting up at 5 to 6 because it says on your, Facebook that you're open till 6 o'clock.
Where
I'm
are my
telling you,
avocados? I only like the Hass ones.
yeah, those avocados are not coming anywhere near me, right? So
Hmm.
I get that. I 100% get that.
Yeah.
But the other side of the coin, which people are not wanting to acknowledge, is the fact that you're also saying that everything negative that's happened to you or is because you've called it, because you've
Yeah, it's
acted
your fault.
negativity. The
It's your
person
fault.
who, if someone reverses into me in a car park, it's not because I wasn't smiling while I was reversing out. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It wasn't because
Yeah.
I didn't have this positive outlook. And there is the side of it where it is canceling, it
Yeah.
is diminishing, it is being reductive to
Yeah.
people that have pain and trauma,
Yeah.
um, and to the point where it's so emotionally damaging to the victims. Like we talk about victim blaming and or shaming. Yet this whole philosophy, when it's taken to its extreme, is doing exactly that. There's no other way we can put a spin on it that it's not victim shaming because you brought that negativity into your world. Because if you didn't think negative, it wouldn't have happened. And the worst case scenario is when people say to you, it's a learning opportunity. Well, we can learn a lot from a lot of things, and I'm of the belief that there's always a chance to learn. There always is, but to suggest that it's almost good that you've gone through shit because you learnt from it, quite frankly, I'd like to learn another way.
Exactly. Exactly. And that feeds into this whole ethos of bad shit, trauma was there for a reason for you. Like it was divinely sent to you for a reason to teach you something. And I'm like, well, there is plenty of other ways I could have learnt those things, or I could have become, I hate reading. It made me resilient. It made me strong. I'm like, no, it didn't make me that way. What it did was make me utilize those qualities that I already had in myself to survive. Like
Yep.
I did not ask for that. Nobody in their right mind would ask to be abused, to be traumatized, to be mentally and emotionally manipulated and scarred by other people. Nobody asks for the flat tire they get random on the highway, or the accident they have while they're going to get friggin' groceries. Nobody asks for their family members and their children to be sick and in hospital. Nobody asks for that
Let me
shit.
ask for it.
So why in the fuck would some higher deity be interested in my low vibrational thoughts enough to send that crap my way to learn a lesson? I don't understand that.
Sing it is all I say because I don't get it. It's at odds with its own logical system, and this is where I'm getting really where it grinds my gears because we put forth this logical system of positivity brings positivity and negativity brings negativity, but we can't acknowledge the negative. Therefore, how can we have the second part of the statement, right? Because by
Yeah.
tell me by focusing on what you're not allowed to focus on, by literally saying these are the things you need to move past that and always think positive, the negative exists by the very nature of the fact that you're not allowed to acknowledge it. So this is not healthy. It's not healthy from a psychological perspective. It's
No.
not it's
No.
not healthy from a logical perspective because we're basically training people to ignore what's in front of us, to ignore the logic,
Exactly.
ignore the facts, ignore the situation. We're just going to live in a make believe version, a sanitized Disney version of
A utopia
existence.
of toxic positivity where you are not
It's
allowed to
it's
even shed a tear because you stubbed your toe, because
and
that's
look,
too negative. Like, It's
Just
almost
let's,
along the censorship lines too. Like if it's not fitting into the mold of what the mainstream wants, it gets cancelled
yeah,
out. And I think it's dangerous, like you said, the negative happens for a reason. So the negative for us, it's signaling when our needs aren't being met. It's signaling when we're in danger. It comes from our basal instincts of survival and that primal drive
yes,
to, sustain and thrive and survive in the environment we're in. And so when we're not listening to that stimulus, when we're not listening to those intuitive cues within us to say something's not right here, and we're just whitewashing it with this toxic positivity, we're actually generating this neglect of
yep,
ourselves and of other people's needs, and
yep,
we're promoting a more apathetic way of approaching our own
yep.
well-being and the well-being of others, and canceling out compassion.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
I get it. Sometimes people can be a bit much and they're overly negative and pessimistic all the time. And they're be Debbie Downers, right? Fucking Debbie Downers. We all know Debbie Downers.
yeah,
But at the same time, if you can't handle that, set a boundary. Set a boundary. That's the most emotionally healthy thing you can do in that instance. Be like, I'm sorry that you're going through that. I really am. I wish
yes.
I could do more for you. Or if I can support you, I will. But I just don't have the capacity for that at this time. I've got my own stuff going on, instead of, oh, well, Debbie, maybe just look on the bright side. Hey, there's always a
Yeah.
silver lining to these situations. And I don't know why I pulled out my Kath and Kim voice there, but it has
I, look,
happened.
it adds to it, Tay. It really does.
But that's the shit we grew up listening to, and I'm like, wow, you couldn't say you give less of a fuck more than when you throw
And
some positive affirmation at me like
yes, yes, and
that.
this is the thing.
Rant.
Now, it's not just about the rant side of it here either, and we're not just talking about cataclysmic events here. We're talking
No,
about
no.
we all have little things every day that sometimes just venting,
Yes.
sometimes just ranting is a really positive way to get through it. By acknowledging the
Yes.
negativity, we can actually give it boundaries itself. So by verbalizing what it is, we can actually give it shape. So we can say, look, it isn't really earth shattering. It really isn't the end of the world. Once we sometimes get it out of ourselves, we can actually define it more. And
Yes.
by being able to
Yes.
do that and have people, even to someone on the other end, because when you're talking to someone, you get to hear it also with their ears.
Yes.
Because it's
Yeah.
okay when you rant inside yourself and you go, oh, no one helps me around the house and they're all a bunch of little fuckers and whatever I might be saying to myself. But then when I verbalize that to someone,
Buggers.
the little fuckers, then I verbalize that and I go, oh, I seem really petty that I'm even saying that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's also a thought process.
Yeah.
But
And
I'm going to
it
point,
it
okay,
helps to soundboard off other people. Like,
exactly. And
you
if you want
might
to be,
not know what's actually going on internally until you get it out, and then you go, oh shit, that's what's actually getting to me right now. It's not this. I'm reacting to that because it's triggering this. And so
yes,
from there, you can move through that in a, either in a proactive way where it might involve some sort of actionable, thing, and
yep,
in the other way where it might be an internal process of unpacking some of that. There's another thing of doing the shadow work or whatever, and it's not necessarily related to trauma and things, but it's more of the day-to-day reactionary triggering that we have from stimulus, and we sit in solitude a lot of the time and reflect and unpack that so that we can move through it.
yep. And I'm going to say just from going really back to the toxic positivity and
Yeah.
talking about it, it actually has been proven. This is psychological. They've done research on this and the psychology behind it, and not being able to address issues, having those avoidance and invalidation occurring around people's
Mm-hmm.
issues creates shame,
Yep.
isolation,
Yep.
distress,
Yep.
and there is a tangible link between these things, denying your emotions or not feeling that you're allowed to speak
Mm.
because you've been completely invalidated,
Yeah.
is actually linked specifically with what they call all-cause morbidity,
Yep.
which means it effectively shortens your life.
Yeah.
So we're not just talking about toxic positivity is really fucking annoying.
Yeah.
We're talking about it being dangerous,
You
right,
know
to
what
health.
actually brings up a really interesting point, because you saying it shortens your life. I read up recently and I watched a cool doc on Netflix about centenarians and how they live their lives. And a lot of it is comparing to our modern society where everything's very fast paced, is the gratification, la di da di da. You know, these people, they don't cancel out their existence and their negativity and whatnot. Instead, they work through it as a community. And that is the way that they attain happiness and peace. And they follow their, you know, in Japan, in Okinawa, it's a ikigai. So it's like their life purpose or what fulfills them. And it can be so simple as the pleasure that they take in their garden, or the way that they cook traditional meals, or, you know, like, and it gives them drive. And those people live to, like, they have the highest population of 100, like, of centenarians, which are people who are 100 years over. And, you know,
Yep.
and I
So
think,
there's a lot to
yeah.
be said for it. And look, looking into this, I was looking all the way back to Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, and all of these kind of philosophers,
Mm,
and they coined the phrase, and I'm going to try and get this correct, of eudaimonia. And
nailed it.
eudaimonia is effectively from a combination of the word good
Yeah.
and spirit.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not saying here don't try to find your bliss,
Mm,
try to find your happiness, right? So 100% behind that.
mm.
I just can't say that more strongly. But we're also talking about, and we've talked about the big end toxic positivity, and we're talking about trauma, and we're talking about, you know, sick children, da da da.
Mm.
I'm going to give an instance of where I think it's damaging in a mindset issue around growing minds when they're forming their expectations of the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have a culture, especially Western culture, where literally nothing our children can do is wrong. They go to school, they get
Yes.
participation awards, they get principal awards, and sometimes a principal award can be around you paid attention today.
Good on.
Okay,
Yep.
that's not something where you excelled. That's something where you actually gave them minimum, right? So
Yep.
I had a ruling around my house, and I was absolutely caned for this because I was a little bit too strong on my children.
Yep.
But we had a thing that was as to whether things were fridge worthy. And
Yep.
something was fridge worthy is if you earned it, if you had done something that was wonderful, you'd put your heart and soul into it, you'd achieved something from work, from hard work, from dedication, through natural born skills, whatever it was.
Yep.
If you've got that, it goes on the fridge.
Yep.
When my kids came home, especially at the end of the year, and they brought home their art folder, and
Yep.
I would just open it up and I'd go, that shit, that shit, that shit. That goes in the box. And my kids would tell you this is
Oh.
100% true. But then if I saw something, I went, now that goes on the fridge.
Yeah.
Bang. Get a
Yeah.
magnet on it and it would go on the fridge. And I go, that one I know you worked on.
Yeah.
No, my kids. I've still got in my crystal cabinet.
Yeah.
Um, I have got a thing that my son made, which the teacher hated, and he got really badly marked for it in art class.
Yeah.
Which and it's coming up around Halloween. It's funny because he actually created something where it was a human body that
Yeah.
had an arm going through the head that came out through the ear, and it had all of that was red where it was bleeding down.
That's
And
so
it had like an
cool.
open, bloody mouth, but it
Yeah.
was just
Yeah.
all about its own body parts going through it. And I went, dude, that goes in the crystal cabinet.
Yeah.
That is,
That's so fucking cool.
I love it. That is just fantastic. But they'd come
Yeah.
back with a button sewn onto a piece of hessian, and it was like, dudes, come on, that's what am I doing with that?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think there's this. We build these young forming minds up that everything they do, even with a half-assed effort, is great. It's great. It's wonderful. Let's give them
Yeah.
a ribbon.
Yeah.
Here's the ribbon. Here's a principal's award because you didn't talk in class. No.
I
Like,
get celebrating little milestones. Like maybe there's an end goal to, okay, you know, you didn't talk today, but we want to build you up to 100% attention, whatever. And I get celebrating the little milestones, but being handed a gold trophy
sorry. Sorry,
every
Tay.
time you,
I just rolled my eyes so hard right then. I think I hurt myself. I think I didn't injury. Like, yeah,
you
I
sprain
hear
your
what you
eyeball.
I just felt like that statue that my son made. Like,
Yeah,
I get what you're saying.
yeah,
We're assuming there a level of, I'm going to state straight out, stupidity in our children.
mm,
Like my kids, I've always said my kids are going to be, and we know this factually, they're more intelligent than we are, right?
yeah,
It's only just started to decline. So my kids are still in the group that was smarter than their parents, right?
yeah,
We know this is maths. Their intellect was at the stage that when my son received his principal award, he knew it was a joke. And it was purely
yeah,
just that he'd
yeah,
almost gone all the way through primary school without getting one because he was a little rat bag,
yeah,
right? It wasn't that he didn't excel. He just didn't excel in things that the school wanted him to excel in. So he wasn't, the person who brought the apple and put it on the thing. He was the person who talked in class. He
yeah,
was the person that did all of these little things. So he knew when he got it, he goes, oh, because I didn't talk, I literally got a principal's award.
yeah,
Whereas,
yeah,
and he knew, like he knew that was stuff. But it's not just that, and it's from a children's standpoint. And I've been talking about this with my kids now, and they're 24 and 22, right? So they're adults now, and they have really strong views on this toxic positivity, and they can't stand it either. But my son's
mm,
point was quite illuminating because he's like, this belief system that I can manifest whatever it is that I want just through positive thinking, just by
yeah,
wanting it to be. He goes, I could manifest till the cows came home and I couldn't become an NBA player because
yeah.
I'm not ever going to be 7 foot. I am not going to be playing basketball because I'm just not tall enough.
I think the main thing here that we're highlighting, because I think it's very ego inflammatory in a negative way to tell a child that they can have it all and eat their cake too, when in fact life does not run like that. Sometimes you're going to have challenges. Sometimes it's going to be a bitch to get what you want. Sometimes you flat out just can't have it straight out because you have limitations within yourself, or
Yep,
there are limitations within the situation that won't allow you to get there. And so you have to become adaptable. You have to become resilient. And,
exactly.
and the challenges are what allow us to really tap into our talent and become, you know, flexible in how we attain what we want. And I think it's a little bit silly to just, say to your kid that, oh, because you want it, it's going to happen. And I think that really feeds into this new age mindset of, well, if you channel into this frequency and you think about it and you have positive thoughts and things, that is going to manifest how you want it. And you know what, 9 times out of 10, the animate everything, the universe that you're actually petitioning, is going to go, okay, you want that, I see that, but the way you're going about it is not the right way. So I'm going to throw in a little bit of spice into that manifestation working to make you get back on the reality train a little bit.
Yeah, and this is the
That's,
thing. Reality isn't the enemy.
yeah, yeah.
Being realistic is not the enemy.
Being disappointed about an outcome because you didn't win that race, or because your painting didn't get first place in the gallery. Like I had so many of those disappointments growing up. And, it did in a way make me strive to do better, but it, more than anything, it made me strive to step out of the fields of competition that I didn't feel were worthy for me. I'm like, okay, I'm not melting into your mold very well. I'm not going to force myself into a square when I am a star. So
Yep.
fuck your gallery, fuck your
Yep.
races. I'm going to go over here and be in my own arena, and I'm going to thrive
Yep.
there, you know?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we've mentioned frequencies, but before we get into that, because we will get into that, I want to talk about how annoyed it makes me that they're using quantum physics and quantum mechanics to prove
Yeah.
to prove law of attraction effectively. Because
Yes.
let's just this the new age mantra that has come around, you are what you act or you are what you feel. And that you create. Now, I'm all about manifestation, right? Bring it on. You set your intentions, you send the energy out to the universe, you send out the call. Absolutely, right? I'm 100% behind that, because unless you know what you want and you clearly define it, you're going to a little bit go through your own rat maze because you haven't clearly defined what it is you want.
Yeah.
I get that, right? So
Yeah.
intentions and manifestation, I'm all for it. But please, please do not give me a quantum physics analysis as to why like attracts like is been proved,
Yeah.
right? Because I've looked into this and it drives
Of
me
course you
literally
have.
insane. Of course I am. And I'm going to go really, really short, but I have read, and if anyone Googles it and they look up quantum physics manifestation, quantum physics
Yeah.
law of attraction, quantum physics positivity,
Yeah.
they'll say that quantum physics has proven that humans beings and consciousness can affect outcomes.
Yeah.
And the way we know this is because of the observation effect, because there was a scientific study done when they were having an argument as to whether something was a wave or if it was a particle. And so they shot it through this basically a piece of metal that had slits cut into it. They send the photons through there, and they were expecting it to react one way, and it reacted a different way.
Yeah.
So this is one of the basic principles of quantum mechanics, that things can act in multiple ways, and the observer and or the measurement is what changes the outcome.
Yeah. Yeah.
That does not prove that we as a consciousness can change the outcome to be whatever we want it to be. Because I can assure you this particular study is basically changing it from wave to particle. It is not shooting these photons through this piece of metal, and it comes out that one scientist says, I want to see a rabbit, and poof, there's a rabbit on the other side. Or
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to see. No, it's basically just shifting between those two forms, right? So
Yeah.
please do not do that and say that that's proof, because it's not how it works. We also have the and this is one that is so close to my heart because I love the concept of atomic entanglement.
Oh,
And I've
yes.
mentioned atomic entanglement
Rabbit
before.
hole alert.
Rabbit hole. But they're saying that because of atomic entanglement, which is the concept that atoms that have been spent close time with each other, basically, even if they're separated to other sides of the universe, and something happens to one, it will happen to the other, which proves, apparently, that if I'm negative, it's going to be negative, and if I'm positive, it's going to be positive, right?
Yeah.
Even from a new age perspective, where if you think, which new age people do, and I do myself, that everything came from a big bang, that we're all part stardust, we're all part of the same thing.
Yes.
The logic of using atomic entanglement to prove your argument would be that there'd be one conscious thought and one conscious energy vibration at one point in time, because all of the atoms are entangled, because we all came from the one thing. Do you know what I'm saying? So if one person was negative, we'd all be negative, or if
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Well, that brings up a good point, because when we're using these toxic positivity statements and things for in communicating with other people, it's actually proven in psychology that not everybody is on the same bandwidth. We've talked about it previously from a 0 to 10 perspective of how happy you are at any given point, and
Yep.
how content you are with life at any given point. Some people might always be on an 8, some people might always be on a 4, some people might be more naturally pessimistic or realistic about their perception of life, and others are on the the optimistic end. That's fine. We're all on the spectrum somehow in there.
And,
But
and Kate, that has been proved.
yeah,
It's called the science of happiness,
yes,
and they're basically talking about, and they've studied this, and people are born with a level, a rating,
yeah,
and you have the capacity to move around a little bit. But they're suggesting that up to 50% of your happiness rating is
yeah.
genetic based.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and to look into this study, what they've done is they've looked at people. So let's just say I'd say I'm about, if I had to say, I think I'm about an 8, right? I reckon I'm an 8
Yeah,
because, of
yeah.
course, I'm enlightened, right? I'm vibrating I'm
You're
vibrating so
vibrating
hard.
so high, babe.
So I'm about an 8, right?
You're
Let's
a
just say.
fucking rainbow.
But the logic is then they studied people and they gave them everything they not gave them, they studied them under circumstances where they achieved what they wanted. Their wishes were fulfilled.
Yeah, yeah,
And people didn't change much from their 8, or if they're a more, a 5 level. It was like, oh, the 5 would say, oh yeah, I've got everything I wanted, but I could lose it tomorrow as well. So I'm not going to let myself get too excited by it because
yes,
of
yeah,
X. Whereas
yeah,
the person that got it go, yeah, this is great. This is fantastic. I've got this, but I had my family beforehand. I had all of these wonderful things, and
yeah,
they stay at an 8 rating. And
yeah.
then when the shit hits them, and something horrible happens to them, the 8 will duck down a little bit, but then will re-find
Come
itself
back up. Yeah,
by basically saying, I've still got X, Y, and Z, which is
yeah,
where our mindset comes in, because it's where we say, oh, yes, this has happened and it's horrendous. And there was a little bit of a bump in the road, but I still have these things.
yeah,
Whereas when the 4 or the 5 has that stuff happening to them,
yeah.
they'll say, well, this is par for the course.
This is
This was
normal.
always destined to
Yeah,
happen.
yeah,
Now, here's the thing. That's their happiness rating.
yeah.
We shouldn't be the ones judging that.
No, no.
We shouldn't be the ones saying, oh, you know where you need to be? You need to be up here with us 8s and above.
Yeah, you need to be sitting up here.
If you're not sitting up here, if you're not
Something,
vibrating at
there's
this
something wrong
frequency,
with you.
and that therein
Yeah,
lies my problem with it all,
yeah,
because
yeah.
they are saying 50% genetics, 10% circumstance, and 40% is your personal outlook towards things.
So, in that 40%, we are still a variable
It's a huge variable.
in our own, petri of positivity. Like that experiment can go either way. But I find that fascinating
Exactly.
how it's like being euphoric and dysphoric. Manic and melancholy. There's always this tipping scale of mood. And like when someone is euphoric, they've got to come down eventually. And so they're going to come back down to that 8 or wherever they're sitting naturally. Maybe it might be lower, maybe it might be higher for a little while. But then, as you move through daily life and things, it's going to tip back to neutral. If you're down, eventually with time, healing, whatever is needed in that process, a good piece of fucking chocolate for me sometimes, you're going to come back up again. And it's all about titrating those levels. But when we're coming up to people who are naturally sort of on the lower, like pessimistic, realistic end of the spectrum, and we're coming at them with, oh, well, think about it this way, blah, 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 blah.
Yep, I've just negated you. I've just been reductive. I've just
Yep,
cancelled
yep,
out you.
yep,
Yep.
yep. So they're gonna adversely react to that. They're gonna adversely react to that because their psychology, their natural levels are not aligning with that shit whatsoever.
Yep.
Like the cue the eye roll. If it was like someone like me and you come up to me and I'm having a very in-depth conversation with you about, oh, this has been happening and blah, blah, blah. And, and I'm not asking for advice and you're not giving it, you're just holding space. And they turn around and go, oh, well, think of this, like I had that happen and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not sitting here, I'm going to be like, right. So you're not a safe person to talk to. You've completely just overridden my experience and my emotions are invalid. What the fuck is the point of sharing that? Like,
Yeah.
It's
And you end up feeling worse than you
disappointing.
did before.
Yeah.
You feel much
You
worse than
feel
you did
so much
before.
more shit. And for someone who is always waiting for the other shoe to drop, that could be very detrimental to their mental health
Yeah.
and well-being.
And
You
and,
know, they've
and the thing
reached out, and that's what you've done to them.
yeah, and the positive, the person who's in the realm of positivity, which I had some really cool things that they talked about the tyranny of positivity and the positivity mandate, which is this,
Tyranny.
forced view to be positive.
Yeah.
They walk away from the situation feeling like they've done good. They're to a degree certainly, completely oblivious to the potential pain they've just laid at that person's feet or piled upon them because they've negated their thoughts.
And
They've
you know
negated their
what?
feelings.
In these new age spiritual circles and things, we often get that guru mentality who is perpetuating this bullshit, and they're predatory in nature because they're preying on people who are looking for hope. They're looking for a
Yes.
way to heal. They're looking for a way to move forward. And then they just come in and they fucking gaslight them, and they throw this toxic positivity bullshit of maybe if you meditated with your third eye for 5 minutes a day, you might heal that trauma that fucking, happened to you in your childhood or whatever. And so it cancels out that need to actually seek out proactive measures to actually help you in that instance. And
Yep.
that I find is really dangerous.
Well,
And
I'm gonna.
these people who are doing that, they're not informed enough to be doing that.
No, and no, we are not in any way claiming that we are mental
No,
health
no,
professionals in
we are
any way,
not.
shape, or form.
No.
What we are talking about is personal experience and
Yes.
how it's impacted us.
Yes.
And I've done a little bit of asking family and friends what they think about this subject.
Yes.
What I am going to talk about is, again, New Age is really confusing to me because it takes on a lot of very, very ancient philosophy,
Mm.
but
Mm.
it seems to not want to do the work of learning.
Yeah.
And it's these people studied, and it was a generational thing, family down to family down to family. And
Mm.
we seem to read a couple of blog posts and a couple of things, and we become a new age guru. And one of the things
Yeah.
I wanted to go out, we've got a hierarchy of consciousness, right?
Mm.
Which is when we're talking about the vibrational levels. Now, again, I'm all for the concept that we're made of energy,
Mm.
that the concept that we have chakras working within us, whatever you want to call them,
Mm.
right? Energy centers, however they want to work. Because when we're talking about planets in retrograde, I will all chakras, and they spin, and inherited energy from the Big Bang and blah, blah, blah. I'm all for that. What I'm not for is the certainty that this is the way to go. And if you follow this path, I don't like that in any way, shape, or form, where it's religion, whether it's science, whether it's spirituality. I don't believe in this certainty because we are always learning more, right? So it makes me annoyed, but I'm going to read these down in order for you in
Okay.
terms of, I wanted to know how I could rank myself in terms
Yeah.
of my energy level, in terms of the good vibrations. Effectively, where are we at? So we start off at 700 hertz, which is up the top level in terms of enlightenment. We come down enlightenment, peace, joy, love, reason, acceptance, willingness. Neutrality is around about 250 hertz.
Okay, that's interesting.
Interesting.
Mm.
Neutrality, right?
Mm.
Then we come down courage, pride, anger, desire is all the way down at 125. Then we have fear, grief, apathy, guilt, and shame. Right? And these are the ones I'm gonna argue a little bit.
Oh,
Courage,
oh.
courage at 200. Now,
Yeah.
courage is something that you can't be more positive than to be
Be
courageous.
courageous.
Right? That is something we should all aspire to.
Yeah.
And I can see where people can put a bastardized view on it, but if we look at it in terms of, you know, just being able to put our best foot forward regardless of the circumstance, and to face our fears and to move forward, I cannot understand how courage can be so low. Pride, I get, right?
Yeah.
Apparently, it's one of our sins. Anger, of course.
Lol.
Yeah, I don't mind the anger, even though we're getting a little bit angry here.
Anger
I
has
don't
anger
mind it
has
being,
its place. Anger
yeah,
has its
exactly.
purpose. Sometimes anger is the thing that saves you. It moves you into motivation. Anger has its place.
Anger has its place. I would even put forward that fear has more of a place.
Yes, exactly.
It's fear that stops us from putting our hand in the fire.
Yeah.
It's fear that warns us that the person we're dealing with might not have our best interests at heart.
Yes.
And fear is so closely linked to intuition
Yeah.
that I find it really difficult to be able to grasp how, in a new age sense, that we're talking about consciousness, where courage and fear are rated so low.
And you know what? In saying that too, sometimes it's sitting with the fear and allowing it to fully consume and envelop you is what illuminates. Once
Yeah,
you allow yourself to actually feel into that and recognize what it is, that's when you push past it. And it's not pushing past it in a, I'm just going to ignore you until you go away. It's a,
no,
I'm
working
acknowledging
through it.
you and I'm going to have the courage enough to face you because you're telling me something, because you're here for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just find it interesting, and I suppose the message I'm trying to say there is these this guru, like you said, there's
Mm.
almost cultish kind of thought
Oh,
process
fuck yeah.
where,
Get the Kool-Aid out.
yeah, where you've got someone telling you this is how you got to act, this is how you got to think, this is how you got to feel,
Yeah.
and then we're using these ancient wisdom that we've bastardized. We're
Mm.
then using modern science.
Mm.
I even had numerous websites, not even going into quantum physics, but going into actually going into atomic theory.
Yeah.
And we were actually saying, oh, well, law of attraction. And it's like, well, have you heard of a magnet?
Yeah.
Like,
A
have you heard
magnet.
of one?
A magnet. Negative and positive come together. A
Yeah.
negative and negative will push away. A positive and positive will push away. We need the two to have
Yeah. It's
that
called
synergy.
a magnet. And then
Yeah.
I thought even more when people are going to go, Petra, you think you know science, but you don't know science, right? Yeah, you know what? I don't know science. I really don't. But there are, four major forces in the universe, and I'm not going to go into all of them,
Mm.
but two of them come into play here because
Yeah.
there is the force that's in the center of an atom that keeps all of the protons and the neutrons together, and that
Yeah.
does
Yeah.
hold like energies together.
Down to
Yeah,
our very cellular beings, we
yeah.
have
And
positive,
that is, and there's
neutral and negative. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting thing here that the energy that keeps the positive energy together in the center of an atom, because let's remember, not wanting to go into atomic theory too much, but it is positive in the middle and negative on the outside, with the electrons making a balanced atom,
Yeah. Yeah.
like making it balanced, because
Yeah.
the universe does like balance.
Yeah.
And balance is about positive and negative,
Yeah.
not one or the other. And so people will argue, and they have argued, and I've seen it all over Google when I've been researching this. And there is the strong nuclear force in the center that holds them together. But I'll also point out that and it is the strongest of all four of
Mm.
the energies in the universe, strongest of all four. But it also only works over a short distance.
Yeah.
Once you get past that, you have the electromagnetic, which is positive and negative.
Yeah.
So it would almost suggest that even at an atomic level, we need both.
We need both.
Yeah.
We need both.
A positive, there is the law of attraction. There is, there's a force that keeps things together, but it
Mm.
only has a very small, limited view.
Yeah.
It's very confined. And when you come out a little bit further and stretch it out a little bit further, it becomes the opposite, and it's electromagnetic force.
Yeah.
So even from that, so all I'm saying is, I can guarantee that doesn't prove shit, right? What I've just said doesn't prove shit. But I know that it doesn't prove shit, and
Yeah.
I'm not putting it forward to people that it does.
Yeah.
I'm just putting it forward that I'm disputing what you're saying, because
Yeah.
you're putting it forward as fact and
Yeah.
using using atomic theory and quantum mechanics to prove concepts
To
where they are
justify your shitty dogma.
just to justify
The
it.
universe does not give a fuck.
And I feel like saying to you, you don't understand one, what scientific proof is,
Yeah.
just right there. But that's just me being judgy.
Mm.
We'll ignore all of that. People, it's damaging. It's damaging to the people around you. It's damaging to self.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
shit happens. I hate to be the person that breaks that news to everybody out there, you know. But shit does happen. How we deal with it can make us a better person, and it can also break us.
Yeah.
And that is not a testament to us.
Yeah.
It's just a testament to everything that's gone on. So this whole judging factor of people being, oh, but they're so strong, they through that. Please.
Stop telling people they need to be strong.
Yeah.
Telling people they need to do things to make their lives and situations better. I feel like unsolicited advice goes hands in hand with toxic positivity, especially now. And you know what? Sometimes people get sick of having to be strong all the time. They need permission to break down. They need permission to cry. They need permission to scream as loud as they can because they can't keep it in here, because that's what's making us sick. Not being able to fucking express ourselves authentically. My favorite thing is that I think about all the time is how too much of a good thing can be poisonous, just as much as too much of a bad thing can be poisonous. Like everything needs
every
to be in
medicine.
Moderation.
Yeah, every medicine can either help you or kill you.
Can become poison. You see it in these spiritual planes and things where everyone is in holistic care and stuff, where everyone's going, oh well, it's from nature, it can't harm you. It can
kill you quicker. It can kill you quicker than any man-made one,
and it won't apologize for it because it's just doing its thing. And so moral of the story, people. I'm choking on positivity. Positivity in moderation, please.
Yeah,
can
absolutely.
With the toxic positivity. Next time you feel like you want to throw a silver lining statement at someone who's having a really hard time, think about it.
Don't. I'm going to go as far to say don't.
Yeah, don't.
I'm going to go as far to say, can we get rid of toxic positivity and the positivity mandate, and can we replace it with authentic positivity? And if we've got positivity towards that person, sure, express that. We feel good things for them, sure, express that. Nobody wants to be around the negative Nellies or the Debbie Downers. Nobody wants to, but we should allow people to be that occasionally.
Yeah.
We should allow people to be that. And if we're a true friend, we should be there for our friends when they're going through that.
Yeah.
Replace the positivity with a bit of empathy.
Yeah.
Is what I'd be saying.
And if you find negative Nelly and all of that, it's getting too much, put a boundary down.
Put a boundary down.
Put a boundary down. That's the most emotional, healthy thing that you can do for them and yourself. Put a boundary down.
I reckon we're going to finish on that.
I think so. This has been a bit of an episode, and thank you, everybody, for joining us here today for our little rant session about toxic positivity. So, what are we talking about next week, Petra?
Well, we're talking about ghosts, hauntings, and spirits.
Yes.
Going back to our roots.
Paranormal.
That's what we're doing.
Oh, we got so much cool shit to share.
I know, right? I know. That's going to be a share fest, even worse than this was. So that'll be a really exciting episode.
Yes.
And a lot of the topics we've touched on at the moment have actually reflected back in different things we've talked about. So go back past. If you haven't listened to the other podcasts, go back.
Yes.
Give them a listen to, because
you're missing out on our beautiful little crochet pattern of just conversations that are weaving together so beautifully.
I know. We didn't even plan that.
It makes me vibe up to an 8, I must say.
Well, I'm already on a 700 hertz and
Oh,
above, so
fucking bloody da for
I
you.
got the plus beside me because they don't even have a category for it.
Well, in this Adam, that is Empowered Intuitive Academy podcast, you're definitely the positive fucking neutron, and I'm the negative one. So we'll land it on that. And as always, remember, curiosity may have killed a few cats, but there's no
Toxic positivity killed more.
it's toxic positive has probably killed more, right? Yeah, that cat's fine. Just because it ate that weird plant outside.
It's Schrodinger's cat.
I don't think we need to take him to the vet. It's fine. 24 hours later, things fucking frothing at the mouth, and you're all like, oh, well, isn't that a shame? Oh, sorry, Fluffkins. Let's go to Pet Barn and adopt another one.
Fluffkins?
Fucking
That's what we're going with. All right. I go with Schrodinger's cat and you go with Fluffkins. All right.
Oh, I think Erica like coined that term a while back. But there's no growth in ignorant bliss. So if your cat has eaten something funny, take it to the vet, please. For Fluffkin Schrodinger's sake. All right.
It's true.
Till
Bye, everyone.
Bye.